Say, kids, what time is it?
The future is coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on.
All right, so Alan and I are doing the show from our trip to Maui, the first time since 2015. And we came here specifically to see the performance of a lifetime. Actually, we got to see it twice by Richard Cray, who is the star in The Man of La Mancha. And it was an absolutely beautiful production here at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center. And he had been playing just 2 weeks. We got to go on closing matinee and on the closing Saturday
night, the big Saturday night show.
And they were just stellar performances. What an amazing cast. And we're going to get Richard to talk a little bit about the show and about why they're doing it here in Maui. Everybody remembers the devastation of the Maui Fires last year. And I can tell you, the Maui community is still suffering very much. You go to a restaurant and you get a special deal if you make a donation to the food bank. And you have a lot of people who are just emotionally really at a new place in life because of all the things that have happened here in the last year. And this play was created to help uplift the spirits with a reminder about dreaming impossible dreams.
So how did it start for you, Richard? Did you get a call from the Maui Arts Cultural Center? How did this begin?
They seemed a little interested in me. I did Phantom 21 years ago at the MAC. David Johnston, who's the artistic director of MAPPA, and his wife, they remembered me from 20 some years ago, and my name came up. So David knew I could do it. John Rawl, who's the conductor, orchestra conductor, musical director, wonderful guy. He didn't know me, so I made an audition tape for him, which I put a lot of effort into, and took the message of the show seriously, which was the effort is sublime. So I put an effort out there, not attached to the outcome. And then they offered it to me. So it started a blessed challenge for me for weeks and weeks of working to try to build up my stamina and do the things you do to create a character. On my facial hair yesterday, today is only the second day without Don Quixote.
See, you grew the beard.
What character are you playing now?
3 months now. Every day I've awakened to having to do something that has to do with that, including the past 2 weeks actually having to do it every day. So that's how I ended up here, and I've been here since June 7th working on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Richard, I want to get you to talk a little bit about this show and its place in the hearts of musical performers such as yourself. Because you told us the synchronicity of your very first audition as a young, undiscovered talent looking to get a role in a musical, and you chose the song of Dreaming the Impossible Dream as your audition song. And here you are.
Right, 9 years old.
At 9 years old.
9 years old, the first time I ever walked across the stage and handed a piece of sheet music to an accompanist on the stage to audition. I sang The Impossible Dream. I learned to sing it by listening to Jim Nabors on the Gomer Pyle show. There's an iconic show where he becomes so afraid he has to sing before the U.S. Marine Corps band. I shall impersonate a little 9-year-old boy. So I auditioned singing The Impossible Dream. They stopped the audition. They went out and got my parents, told them I was a very gifted child, and I ended up getting to do Maine with Denise Lore. So that kind of started my journey performing. And I had other connections to the show. When I was in New York, I did a show. I did Kayam Potok's The Chosen. And the actress that played my mother was Mimi Turk, and she was in the original production of Man of La Mancha and is on the original cast album. I was also hired by Mitch Lee and Albert Marr. Albert Marr directed the original production of Man of La Mancha, and Mitch Lee wrote Man of La Mancha. I was hired by them in 1988 to do a show called Choo Chim. I didn't do it. I took another show, but I had that connection to it. And I don't know. I've told these stories about all these little serendipitous things that happened when I came into Maui. The couple sitting next to me in the plane, when they opened their plane window, I saw fluffy clouds and then blue sky. And the first thing I saw flying into Maui were windmills on the side of the hills. And then the first time I went to the Jake Sakamoto pool to swim laps to stay fit, the man at the end of the lane that asked to share the lane with me, turned out that his father had been best friends with Richard Cray, who was the original Cervantes in Don Quixote in the original production. And he told me all these stories about when he was a kid, how he listened to the cast album over and over again, and they had seen the show so many times and been backstage, and all these mementos from Richard Cray. So there were different things about that. But also, really, I think for any musical theater actor to have the opportunity to play this role is probably the greatest role ever written for a musical theater actor. It requires everything of you. There's stage combat, there's comedy bits. He has a mental breakdown. He's over the top chivalry, romance, and he dies.
Dream come true as an actor, huh? To play a role like this.
Everything. And plus he has 4 songs, including The Impossible Dream. There must be about 1,000 lines, and yeah, there's 4 songs.
Got to sing his ass off.
Yeah, so it's a lot. It required a lot of, for my friends and for people that went and just saw the performance, it probably seemed like a miracle, but believe me, it didn't happen overnight.
It did seem like a miracle. It was amazing. It was a really jaw-dropping performance. And your talent, of course, is just amazing. And you held such an important space as the central actor, but your cast, every single person was just a star in their own right. They had amazing voices. They had amazing timing. The roles were very well executed. You could understand everything, even whether it was being sung or spoken. The professionalism of this cast and this production was so surprising in such a community theater center.
Right. And the orchestra we had a Broadway quality orchestra. I mean, it was really astounding. That was John Royal. So Amy Hanali'i Gilliam, she played Aldonza. She is a Hawaiian princess, who's been nominated for 6 Grammy Awards and won, I think, 17 or 18 Hoku Awards, which are the equivalent of the Hawaiian Grammys. She is a terrific person. So honored to share the stage with her and get to know her. Also, Francis Tau, who is a Maui educator. I mean, he's a playwright and a director, and he's a comedic actor. I mean, that's one thing people don't know about Man of La Mancha. It actually is a very funny. There's a lot of humor in it. So
why don't you just summarize?
I wanted to mention David Johnston. You were talking about the casting. I always say that 90% of directing is casting, and he put together this amazing group of people, physically different types, and they all look like they could be in this prison in the 1600s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's an odd group of people, right? So each of them had their own wonderful bit to bring to it. And over time, they did it. They really did it. So
what do you think about the success in communicating to the Maui community a message of hope?
That was the point of it. They chose this musical because of its sort of message of hope over despair, that the outcome is not the point, the effort is the point, to follow the quest. Whether I win or lose does not matter, only that I follow the quest. They scheduled it almost a year to the fire.
Oh, yeah. Did it open on the anniversary of the fire? Was that the opening date of the first performance?
No, not quite. It wasn't the anniversary, but it is the same month of the fires. It's within a few weeks of the fires. And there were a lot of people who were affected by the fires. The seamstress, Linda, who worked with Kathleen, who's the customer, she lost everything in the Lahaina fire. She lost her home. I think she lost her pet. She told me she walked for 10 hours that day until she finally found some place to be. Like she was in just a daze.
Would you mind if I use this as a segue to maybe bring in also Ed Ellsworth, who is a local resident now here on Maui, and can probably speak somewhat to the current state of mind of the people here and just how they're coping and what people think about what happened and what did you think of the play? Why don't you jump in there, Ed, and give us just a little bit of the local ambiance with the Man of La Mancha.
Well, starting with your visit, it's really encouraging that a year after our anniversary of the fires on August 8th, that people are starting to come back here now. One of the things that's really impacted people in the county of Maui, which is the island here and a couple of islands nearby, Molokai and Lanai, were extremely impacted economically by the fires and by people deciding not to show up. I mean, all sorts of people that traditionally would come here, like people in my family too. I would normally be meeting with my brother here or other people in my family, but they've chosen, other destinations until they can figure out if they can go to their favorite spots again. But some of their favorite spots have disappeared. But right now, it's really wonderful. We're having a resurgence over the last year, and it's been great to see productions like Man of La Mancha coming back into the fold. It's really great that we had 800 or so people showing up on the closing night of Man of La Mancha. And of course, it was a wonderful cast and orchestra. The musicians in the pit were great. I really appreciated the final night being able to hear the actors sing and seeing the orchestra both at the same time. I didn't see that on the premiere night. It was fabulous. I mean, basically, everyone sounded great. The voices, the singers, the actors were all incredible. The orchestra was something like 18 or 20 piece ensemble, sounded great. The Castle Theater at Maui Arts and Cultural Center was really a nice venue for receiving the show, and it really played very well to the audience. Everyone said wonderful positive things about it afterwards. So it was really a great treat to be able to see it twice and to see Richard and Greg here and to be able to, after seeing them and Alan and Son last year in California, I've made the shift in the last year and a half, moved permanently to Maui. And I do visit still in California, but Maui's what's happening for me. It's always been my happy place. And even after the fire, people would comment, are you regretting that you moved there? And that didn't occur to me at all. I mean, if this is my chosen paradise, I can't see that an incident like that would drive me away from it. It just would make me even stronger wanting to stay in this community. And that's one of the beautiful things about Maui is that it has incredible community. The people have a lot of aloha. They have a lot of love and availability for each other. I mean, people here, the main difference for me between here and the mainland, let's say California is what I'm going to refer to as the mainland, is people have enough time to actually connect with each other. They're available for a conversation. They're available for a hug or for a greeting. Aren't they, guys?
Just a casual interaction in the grocery store or something, just talking in the grocery store with somebody. I mean, if I'm in LA sometime, if I was to just casually speak to someone, sometimes they look at you like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Here it's like a sacred moment that you can connect with somebody and have,
So if people that don't have the time to talk to you or they're acting like they're too busy, you're not important, they either just got here or they're getting ready to get the hell out of here.
That's Greg Panos, everybody, one of our regular irregulars, our AR guru, I guess you'd call it that, or augmented reality and all things future.
So I came here and I loaded up my suitcase with virtual reality gear so I can have meetings with some of my friends that live here that are also techies and virtual reality aficionados to come together with a scheme to create a various visualization support using the new immersive media. So the Maui Planning Commission and all the other involved participants and reimagining Lahaina after the fire and how that might proceed to be rebuilt could include engagement from the community where they can directly interact with the 3D data and the virtual reality maps and all the other tools that are being brought to bear on the rehabilitation effort and reconstruction. So I'm going to try to have some meetings here and do some killer demos and some show and tell and bring in some of my friends that are technically proficient to pick up the ball on this and work with the local community. And then you get out of the way and be available by Zoom or phone call as needed until was some good reason to come back and lift things up a little bit higher. One of the things I chose to do is to try to insert myself into the background of the production of Man of La Mancha and use some of my skills to do 3D scanning of the principal actors. And
yes, I was part of that. I remember in the back. Can you tell us a little bit about why you wanted to scan the primary actors in 3D to create 3D avatars? What's really the point?
I hang around with people that are doing innovations in virtual theater. They're actually doing productions in VR chat and in various Facebook platforms and others using virtual reality visors to witness and participate in the theatrical event or show that they're mounting. And they use actors from all over the world that are using the virtual reality to do their performances. They're kind of phoning in real time as avatars into these spaces. And it just makes sense to me that the community theater, whether it be in Maui or anywhere else, can access the low-hanging fruit of these new tools that are now available at a Best Buy or over the internet at an affordable price to do these kinds of innovative, creative collaborations together in these virtual spaces, up to and including the inclusion of physical spaces. So here at the Maui
Arts and Cultural Center.
The Maui Academy of Performing Arts, which is the organization which brought in Richard, they have a large building with many, many rooms for rehearsals. They give all kinds of classes to children, adults, and there's a lot of community involvement with people either volunteering or teaching formally through the organization. And they're also raising money to do these large-scale events like Richard participated in. They're building a black box theater in another building. So all the things that they're doing lend themselves to the new technologies that can support their creative endeavors. And so they're moving slowly into that direction. And I'm here to kick them in the pants a little bit and be a little bit of an irritant to get them to look at some of the new technologies and start imagining how they might integrate that into their workflow and into their imagination stream.
Greg, that gives me a chance to point out that we still are in the caveman era of the technology being friendly to the people and to nature and to the arts. And I think that this experience here is still a testimonial to the fact that people are still not really warm to the idea that their art will be turned over to an avatar matrix world. And yet, I think you were able to really create a positive impression with people just because of having Richard cooperate with you and being such a beautiful representative of the arts and the technology. And the avatar that you created of him is just such an amazing piece of art and such a beautiful representation of what the virtual world can bring to the arts, that I feel like maybe you're helping people warm up to it a little bit, but it's definitely not the default reaction.
Yeah, Richard, what do you think? I mean,
I was just thinking about last night, the wonderful dinner we had at your house, this amazing food you guys created, and we were standing around the table holding hands, and Gregory puts this visor on me to look at the table because he set up this augmented reality projection, almost like the chessboard in Star Wars, where you're looking at the table and there's a 3D representation of me standing on the table, fully costumed and fully my full getup as Cervantes, Don Quixote, and beautifully realized right in front of me. It was unbelievable. It brought tears to my eyes when I saw it. Yeah,
it was beautiful.
It's true. You almost messed up the Oculus goggles because you got good eyes.
Yeah.
You don't cry in the headset.
But it's an overwhelming. I mean, it's just now I'm lucky doing this show has been all consuming for me. It's so much to learn. So there's so much time commitment, and it's just now since, Sunday was the final performance. So today's only the second day now, but I'm lucky that I have some time to embrace the island and enjoy the island and get out and be on the island and visit with people and not have this. I have to be so disciplined when you're doing this because you're the head of a cast and you have to show up all the time. You have to be there and be there on time. You have to be prepared and you have to be committed and all of that.
Yeah.
So now I can hang out and enjoy Maui, beautiful Maui.
You were telling me right after the show, I asked you what your favorite scene was in the play. And surprisingly, it was
well, you let him tell.
Yeah, you
Well,
tell
you
me.
asked me what was the most fun that I
most
have
fun.
on stage, and I said it was the death scene.
So,
So
which is your very last song, right? You get cut off in the middle of your last song.
What is it that makes death scenes so fun for an actor?
Yeah.
Well, this is a little different because this is an actor who is playing a character who is playing as if he's dying. So there were several layers going there, and
So you're acting like an actor who's acting dead.
Well, you understand Cervantes through the whole play is trying to divert the attention of all these people in the prison and this governor guy who's threatened to burn his manuscript, and the manuscript is the manuscript of Don Quixote, which he has written, right? So he's trying to save that, and by doing that, he tells the story. He tells the story of Don Quixote to the prisoners, and they're still going to burn it. So he says, let me improvise, and he comes up with a final scene where Alonso Quijana is in a coma, and all of it comes together essentially where he manipulates Aldonza to tell him the words of the quest. So it's full circle there. And she says, please try to remember, try to remember. So I'm not actually a real character that's trying to remember. I am a character that's playing like I can't remember so that I can, in a sense, manipulate her to tell me what it is that I hope that I've taught her, which is to dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try while your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know, if I only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. Such a great sentiment.
So that's what he was teaching them, all along. And then, of course, you're talking at the end, the reason why the scene is so fun to play is because you're playing all these different dynamics. And then you get up and there's this exciting business where people think, oh, he's got a second wind. He's going to make it. He's going to make it. And then he has a heart attack right in the middle of the song and breathes a death rattle and falls to his death. Right.
But what song was he singing?
A lot of fun to play, huh?
Yeah, right.
And what song was he singing at that moment?
The impossible.
Oh, the trumpets of glory now call me to ride. Yes, the trumpets are calling to me. And wherever I ride, ever staunch at my side, my squire and my lady shall be. I am Don Quixote, the Lord of La Mancha. And so he has a heart attack in the middle of it.
Oh, oh my God. It was such a great show and so inspiring. And I love hearing from you about how fun it is as an actor. I really get a lot more out of it by hearing your process. It's really cool.
Well, it's 2 hours and 6 minutes of a show without an intermission. So you're up there, and when you go, if it's 5 minutes to places, you hear the overture, and you're standing up there on the platform, and you come out and make your entrance to Cervantes. So 2 hours and 6 minutes of being on a tightrope, really, and you just keep going and going and going, and eventually it's over.
Yeah, I would
Wow.
think the stamina to do the 2 hours
So
plus
the
would be very
stamina.
hard on you. Unless
Right.
you
And
had a
it
lot of
took me a while.
discipline.
I mean, once you rehearse a lot, and then you get to a point where you start listening. When you start listening is when it really starts happening. The other actors, like Francis and Amy and all of them that knew how to do that, to bring an honest intention to their actions, because we shed real tears up there.
Yeah, no
But you can't
kidding.
help, right?
We saw 'em, for sure.
Yeah. I have this saying, I don't know who wrote it or whatever, I found it, but this essentially was the mission of Quixote Cervantes through this. It's the way you alchemize a soulless world into a sacred world is by treating everyone as if they are sacred until the sacred in them remembers. That to me is the crux of the whole story.
Well, that sounds like aloha to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
An
and that,
interesting point about Richard in particular, personally, people meet him. He's a tall, very good-looking man, soft-spoken. He's interested in you when you're talking to him. That's one side of him. And then what you witnessed on the stage is another side that 99.99% of all the people he ever meets never get to see. And if they do see that, then every time they see him, the reaction is completely different in the way they want to talk to him or engage him with his time or just kind of hang with him. I make the joke that once you hear him sing, that's the only thing you ever want from him anymore. You don't want to bother talking to him or anything else.
well,
You just want to go put him somewhere and say, go do that. Oh, here are my friends. I want to show this to you guys. Come over here. Look at what this guy can do. And
wow.
it's kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time, socially. But he kind of plays it close to the vest. He doesn't tell people very much about what he does unless somehow they explicitly ask or the topic comes up through some other means.
No, it's not about me.
Yeah, it's not, he doesn't brag about it, or I might brag about it, or
Well, it's the hallmark of such a great artist, Richard, is like you just become your art. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and how has it affected your own quest, shall we say, by playing this role?
Don Quixote was constantly teaching me lessons about how to get through this, when there would be any kind of dissonance or I would lock horns with people or I explained, the Kathleen, the costumier, there were certain things that I wasn't about to wear. I said, don't take me as a diva. I'm not that. I'm defending Don Quixote, right? The character, I wanted him to have an elegant delusion. I didn't want to look like a clown. I could act like a clown, but I didn't want to look like a clown. Especially in the serious moments, like the scenes with Dulcinea Aldonza before the Impossible Dream and all of that, where he's essentially trying to reflect back to her inner beauty that she can't see herself. And during the time where it was challenging for whatever reasons, I always came back to this one line out of the show where the innkeeper he says, "Why don't you declare a truce?" The innkeeper says, Quixote says, "and allow wickedness to flourish?" And the innkeeper says, "I'm afraid wickedness wears a thick armor." And Quixote says, "And for that, wouldst thou have me stop trying? Nay, let a man be overthrown 10,000 times. Still must he rise and again do battle. The enchanter may confuse the outcome, but the effort remains sublime." And I just kept reminding myself of that all the time.
Now, you had quite an interesting co-star, the female lead in the story. Could you tell us a little bit about her?
Well, she's Hawaii's top-selling female artist of all time.
Wow.
And she's a very grounded and no-nonsense person who is just lovely to get to know. And she started calling me Dickie, which I love that. She called Dickie, Dickie. And it turned out her daughter, Maddie, was my makeup artist, and she was lovely as well. She's a local girl. She lives in Wailuku, but she travels all over the world. She travels to Japan, all different places to do concerts. She's terrific. If you ever hear any of her traditional Hawaiian music, I mean, there's no one that can equal it.
I know Amy
Yeah,
Killiam
yeah,
as a musician, a Hawaiian musician primarily, so it's great
right,
seeing her in this role as an actress. And her
right.
brother Eric is also
Eric.
an actor on the island.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So she went to school for and studied musical theater, right? It was really interesting too to watch how they work, different actors work, because different actors get to that place of true intention at different times, right? And for me, I like to get the words in my head, and I had a lot of words to get in my head and then feel comfortable the space where I know I have to be. And then once I'm there and the words are in my head, then I start playing with it. And very often, even in performances, the inflections of certain lines will change,
Hmm.
which is fun. And it's fun to watch other people do that, right? Amy and Francis and how they got to where they got and how we became, in a way, our relationships, the way we care for each other, our characters care for each other, started to come out. And so when you start investing in that, the audience invests in it. Oh my God. See,
Yeah.
don't even
Yeah,
recognize.
I really loved her journey from being sort of tough,
Right,
equal to the circumstances of her status as,
yeah,
being local whore,
right.
and then to
That's it.
be elevated and into disbelief, and then to be invested in your story because that
Right,
helps her to become more fully who she truly is. That
right.
was very beautiful.
So at
And
the
she really
time, she
played the
says,
full
You've
range.
shown me the sky." She says, "You've shown me the sky, but what good is the sky?" For her, I mean, she said at one point in the song, of all the people, you have been the cruelest of all, right?
Hmm.
Because you've shown me something it's in her mind, it's some kind of a delusion, but that's the whole point.
Unobtainium.
It's well, the whole point of it. And of course, the beautiful moment is at the end where she says, "But try to remember the quest. You spoke about the quest that, you must try and, never give up." And you spoke about that. And of course, Quixote says, "The words, tell me the words." He says, "Tell me the words." And so she does tell him the words. And that's how, of course, the show ends with the
So
impossible dream.
In the land of Aloha, where the waves dance gracefully and the palm trees sway, there lived a man named Don Quixote, brave and bold, with a heart as vast as the Pacific Ocean. This is the tale of his valiant deeds, sung in the rhythm of the ukulele and the beat of the hula.
I'm ready to show a 3D scan of Richard that we spoke about.
So what we have here is an avatar of the character Don Quixote that Richard Cray played, and he's in his costume. And they did a really good job of making this costume of a character who, as Richard says, has to be simultaneously a man who's thrown in prison, who is an innkeeper, who is with his servant. They've been thrown in prison because they foreclosed on the church. And so there's a whole political spectrum around the Inquisition. And so he looks very much like a medieval noble, but not like a high scale noble, but kind of like a middlebrow noble, a man who
He's a
dressed
poet and an
well.
actor. He's a poet and an
Oh,
actor
he's
and
a
a
poet
writer.
and an actor and a writer. And so
He
he's
wrote Don Quixote.
right, Cervantes. So now we're talking about Cervantes, the
Yeah.
man thrown into prison.
Right.
And his persona is a very dignified artist who is defending his life in the prison because the prisoners are going to give him a mock trial and they're going to steal his stuff and burn his manuscript just to torture him a little bit. Okay, now we're looking at an avatar of the governor of the prisoner, who's kind of like the chief bully in charge of everything. And
Yeah.
Cervantes basically keeps all of these prisoners at bay by entertaining them with his play, which he launches into during the
Right.
mock trial as his defense for being guilty of being a bad poet and of being an
I shall
idealist.
impersonate a man. Come, enter into my imagination and see him. His name, Alonso Quijana, A country squire no longer young, bony, hollow-faced, eyes that burn with the fire of inner vision. Being retired, he has much time for books. He studies them from morn to night, and often through the night as well. And all he reads oppresses him, fills him with indignation at man's murderous ways toward man. He broods and broods and broods, and finally, after so much brooding, his brains dry up. He lays down the melancholy burden of sanity and conceives the strangest project ever imagined, to become a knight-errant and sally forth into the world to right all wrongs. No longer shall he be plain Alonso Quijana, but a dauntless knight known as Don Quixote de la Mancha.
That's great. That's great.
Oh, so thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is wonderful. And I just want to say thank you for the other avatars that you scanned, Greg. I would say the director, Mr. Johnston, what was his first name? Richard? The director has also been.
David Johnston.
He was the last one I showed.
And he's been immortalized as an avatar, as has Don Quixote and the governor.
This is his baby. This is his baby for years and years and years. This whole, MAPPA and all of this. And he was dreaming the impossible dream to get this done. He's got huge plans for MAPPA. He really believes in the intrinsic value of theater to a community, not just to the community that sees it, but the community that participates in it. That was one of the greatest values for me, to get to know this wonderful crew and cast and all of the creatives that were involved in this and problem solvers.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. We're just going to go to a little commercial break for the station right now, and we'll be back with the second hour. We'll have more fun with our guests here in Maui. See you soon.
From Lahaina to Haina, he'd ride across the land, a true knight of honor.
The Santa Cruz County Fair opens Wednesday, September 11th. Wednesday and Thursday, monster trucks and motocross return. Friday night, Ancy McLean and the Trailer Park Troubadours. Saturday night, Red, a Taylor Swift tribute band. And Sunday, Chada's show with Lola Montez, and that evening, Los Terranos del Norte. And our drone show takes to the sky each night. There's fun for the whole family. Pre-sale tickets and information at SantaCruzCountyFair.com.
The Santa Cruz County Fair.
You need a clean, pleasant space to conduct business, but you don't want the burden of a long, expensive lease. Your solution is Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on Soquel Avenue. Satellite offers private offices, meeting and conference rooms, even co-working by the hour, day, week, or month. Schedule a tour at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
Deer fence, wood fence, livestock chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast fence, Cypress Coast fence.
My name is Stephen Digger. My wife and I live in Royal Oak. When my wife and I were looking to find someone to build our fence, Cypress Coast Fence was highly recommended. It was amazing. These folks are masters at their craft. They're super professional. They came in when they said they were going to come in. They finished when they said they were going to finish. The fence is perfect for our needs, everything they said it was going to be, and then some.
Give us a call for your no-obligation consultation at 831-783-1500 or at cypresscoastfence.com.
We don't just build fences, we make good neighbors.
Deer fence, wood fence, livestock chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast fence, Cypress Coast fence.
Santa Cruz Voice. Hi, this is Future Now. Alan and I are in Maui with our buddies doing a show about this incredible opportunity to participate in the impossible dream and trying to keep people in the spirit of believing in their dreams here in Maui. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alan, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, we tracking Richard's career for many years now, from Broadway to LA to Maui. And we're kind of curious, Richard, playing such an amazing role. Is that your swan song, or do you have other plans for the future?
Well, I thought of it as that, but I did meet a woman, an older, wiser woman that said, "Darling, I'm 84 years old, and I can tell you there's no such thing as a swan song." Yeah.
This
So
one's
you
your
never know. I mean, I
birds.
never thought when we were all locked down during COVID and we're in the house for 3 years, and I kept myself sane by learning to play the ukulele and learn all these different songs I'd wanted to sing. It was mainly crooning, but at least I was keeping my voice going and keeping that going. So I never thought that
Here's the sample.
I never thought that I would ever be on the stage again, much less be doing Don Quixote in a fully realized production, right?
What comes to mind is that since your partner Greg is so into the virtual, that perhaps you might start bringing some of your talents more into the virtual aesthetic, in the virtual environment.
Well, I love the idea. I mean, we've played around. Why don't you play a couple of these AI songs?
Before you move on, I just wanted to make a comment, Richard, that this isn't your swan song. Potentially, this is your nene bird song, your Hawaiian goose song.
All right. Yeah. Right. I love this idea. Nowadays, you can take video of yourself just singing a song or like that, and then AI can turn it into a claymation or can turn it into some sort of sketch art, moving sketch art, or in the sense of, before we came here, we played with an AI program called Udio, where we gave it the task of writing a song. We gave Perplexity the task of writing a song and putting Don Quixote on Maui.
Mm-hmm.
And giving it parameters like melee or Hawaiian falsetto, slacky guitar, that kind of thing. And then it wrote these songs that are just kooky fun, putting Don Quixote on Maui.
So are you going to play us some of those songs?
In the land of Aloha, where the waves dance gracefully and the palm trees sway, there lived a man named Don Quixote, brave and bold, with a heart as vast as the Pacific Ocean. This is the tale of his valiant deeds, sung in the rhythm of the ukulele and the beat of the hula.
At first, I thought that was you, Richard. That's a total AI voice, right?
Yeah.
In the shadow of Haleakala, he rode on his steed. Through valleys and forests, he followed his creed. With his trusty lance and shield, he'd bravely lead. Chasing windmills, his courage would feed. Don Quixote of Maui, oh, a legend so grand, with the sun on his face and the sand in his hand. From Lahaina to Haina, he'd ride across the land, a true knight of honor with a heart so grand.
Wow.
So for the uninitiated, what were we just listening to?
We were listening to a song that Perplexity AI created the lyrics to with a prompt from us saying, write a song about Don Quixote on Maui. And then we gave those lyrics to another program called Udio and gave it prompts to stylize it in Hawaiian melee using slacky guitar, Hawaiian falsetto, and it says, so it came out with this voice as like a cross between Robert Cazimera and Don Ho, and it did all of that and it spit it all out and then just did that. It's insane.
How long could you have gone back in there and corrected the Hana pronunciation?
Oh, the Haina. Yeah, well, that was that from Lahaina to Haina. It's hallucinating. And we thought about that, but it wasn't worth, dishing the whole thing for that. And it kind of shows that. I mean, sometimes you do these and they will hallucinate and it'll sound really brilliant. And all of a sudden it'll just go,
It just goes into scat singing. Huh?
No, just go into nonsense. But aloha, here's another one that's fun. This is another one. Same kind of a prompt.
Aloha, listen up, I got a tale to tell about a night that bought windmill. You know him well, Don Quixote.
Don Quixote.
Man with dreams so bold, chasing windmills, seeking glory untold. He rode on his trusty steed with Sancho Panza, his loyal friend indeed.
Don Quixote.
Yeah.
In a world of giants, may we all be brave and children windmills till we reach our grave.
All right.
Wow,
I like that
great.
sentiment.
How long did it take for that to process? I mean, was that
Oh, 5 seconds. I don't know.
really a little different from the actual production?
Probably would have taken Richard longer to sing it.
Richard, did you see the windmills on Maui?
Yeah, that was the first thing I saw out of the plane window when I was flying in were the windmills.
Yeah.
And John actually drove us up almost to Kipahulu one day, and there are windmills out there. I saw the windmills out there, yeah. That program, Udio, it'll actually make a cover art for you as well. So text to image. So it made crazy cover art, Don Quixote and on a surfboard, on his horse with his lance and everything on a surfboard, cresting the waves with like hula dancers on the beach. And, you know, the Hawaiian haleakala in the background or whatever. I mean, it's crazy mess like that. That's kind of fun. The stuff being with AI are these sort of concepts that the humans come up with, right?
Sure.
So clashing those two things together. I don't know whether anybody ever thought about Don Quixote and Maui on Maui.
Yeah, that's definitely a good hallucination.
Right.
Hey, we have a call in from Walt Disney.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go to the.
It was cryogenic chamber.
Speaking of call-ins, I'm hoping that since all of you guys are working, we can also give in the call-in.
You want to open up the call-in lines?
Yeah, sure. We might
So
have
I'm going to play a call in right now.
You're going to play a call-in from Walt Disney from his cryogenic chamber?
Yeah.
Walt call in.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to play it now.
Okay.
All right.
The Dr. Future show. Oh, it's just amazing. I just don't know what to think. It's just out of my mind every time I listen to it. But boy, is it entertaining. You should all go check it out.
I don't know if that sounds like Walt Disney. It sounds like
like Walt Disney, but he has been dead a while, so you know.
So, here's a live one. Christopher Walken.
It's a really great show on the internet. The Dr. Future show. Oh, it's just amazing. You should all go check it out.
He's got the same script writer as Walt Disney. Yeah.
Oh, here's one more.
In a world where entertainment meets the future of technology, the Dr. Future show is one of the best places you can get all of the information you needed in the whole wide world.
In a world where the whole wide world is.
So that was the famous announcer Don LaFontaine while he was alive.
Which program was that, Greg?
So that was a Replay AI.
Replay AI.
Yeah, and
Is that
there's
something,
a whole website with thousands and thousands of voice clones that you can download for free. To any of your favorite actors or orators or political figures, you can go grab their voice clones that people have made from available audio, and then you can just speak your own audio. You can have it sing.
Gregory had his own mother introduce him at his talk at SIGGRAPH.
His own recently deceased mother.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll have to play that for us sometime. I would really like to see that.
Yeah, she actually, that really did sound like her. I mean, I remember her voice, and he trained a model with her voice. And he also did a really beautiful AI image of me as Don Quixote, which kind of was a vision board for me about my particular look for Don Quixote, that was trained with several photos of me. And it's quite stunning.
I think we have a phone call. Let's see if it's working. Hi, I'd like to say hi from Jerry Isdale. Hey, Jerry.
Isdale. Wow.
Listening to Jerry, we definitely see that you're on screen, but I personally am not hearing you yet. But I'm so happy that you called in. You're our test subject to see if our phone lines are working.
I'll send him the Zoom link.
I have a message here for Jerry Isdale.
Yeah. What's your message?
I came to the island. Jerry Isdale greeted me at the airport. He didn't even have a beautiful, clean limousine. He was driving one of those crazy Maui cruisers. Then he brought me to this place where I was trying to watch a technology demo. I kept getting bitten by the mosquitoes. They were all over the place.
Aha. All right. So we'll wait a few minutes and we should have Jerry live joining us. That'll be fun. I want to just backtrack a little bit to answering Ed's question. He said, what about those octopi that were on the shirts that Alan and I were wearing? And we mentioned that we had gone to the Maui flea market and had met a local artist. And apparently she is famous the world over, and she's been doing this particular art form for over 30 years. She and her husband, Alan connected with her husband. I connected with No Rain. And this art form that she produces, I'll just show you one of her little creatures. It's called Sedgwick. And this art form is called Gaiotaku. And apparently it's an ancient traditional form of art that's practiced here in the islands, where animals that have passed away but have been found by the artists are used as the paint canvas, and then the paint is applied to these animals, and then the cloth is pressed down on the paint. These are actually kind of stencils or prints from paints on the live animal. And so this is a little bit of a connection with nature, although it is art connecting with the death of the animal. But nevertheless, the accuracy in terms of the animal itself and the colors and the spirit is part of this Gyotaku art form. And our artist had produced a couple of very beautiful octopi. And also she's very into the barnacles, which she says barnacles are part of the symbol of hope for Maui, because they represent the animals that hang on, and they just hang on, intending to ride the storm and survive to the other side.
My understanding is that 5 generations of Hawaiians have created this art form where you have an animal from the sea, you put some ink on him, and then create his image onto paper. In this case, they were putting it on Tommy Bahama shirts, Hawaiian shirts, which is very popular here in Maui.
Right.
And you have this great full-sized images created from creatures on your cool Hawaiian shirt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, we just fell in love with them and decided to wear them to the closing matinee of the show, just to be in solidarity with the spirit of the performance, which is that arts do make a positive contribution to life and they bring about positive change. And so we were supporting the arts of Maui and supporting them in the spirit of positive change and good blessings coming back to the island.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the artist's name originally, when he was a boxer on the American boxing circuit, he was known as the Angry Pineapple.
So the Angry Pineapple
Yeah.
and his lovely wife, No Rain, were at the Maui swap meet.
Swap meet, yeah.
They were stepping out for the first time since COVID in a spirit of new hope. So let's hope that that's happening.
Gyotaku.
Hey, and I'll just give people, she says, go down to the swap meet and you can find them there if you're interested in connecting again.
Oh, Ed.
Yes, hi. I'm just
Alan,
sending
one of the
Jerry
things
a
that-
note in case he hasn't responded yet.
Yeah, Alan, one of the things Ed told me about was the changes in the rules for short-term rentals in Maui. Maybe that would be of interest to the listeners.
In terms of people
Okay,
who visit here?
Well, certainly, yeah, because of
I think that's
the
a result of the Lahaina fires.
Sure,
or
yeah.
what was happening
basically
beforehand.
our economy is upside down because of the fires and what happened with FEMA offering a solution to people who lost their homes in the fires. They were offering up to $8,000 a month to be able to house some of these people. So sometimes people that were in affordable rentals here on Maui would get evicted, or they would be told, oh, a family member's moving in, and then that owner would rent it through the FEMA program. And what's happened is it's escalated the rental prices here on Maui so much so that a lot of former residents have had to move away from Maui because they can't afford, it's not sustainable for them to live here anymore. And they've had to move back to the mainland because of the prices here escalating so much. So that's the biggest issue here is that, so that's the biggest issue here. And to put a lid on it, what they've done is they've put a limit. October 2025, they're converting everything that's possible to short-term rental. So they're making a strong push to try to bring houses back onto the market for long-term rentals instead of the short-term rentals that the owners had hoped to have for retirement income or whatever.
So what is the change that's happening on October 25th?
They're discouraging short-term rentals, and it's already hard right now. You have to get a permit to do a short-term rental. So I'm talking about a rental that might be a week a week or two for a visiting person from another location. That has basically pulled away housing from people that can't find affordable housing here. So that's been the big concern in terms of sustainability here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like what happened since the success of Airbnb and the internet applied to short-term housing is that it's impossible to find an inexpensive room. It's impossible to find inexpensive rentals, and mortgages have just gone absolutely to the sky so that rentals have to be absolutely out of reach for the owners to be able to handle the mortgage. It's just a lose-lose where we've got so much empty housing, but we've got our leaders talking about the problem being a housing shortage. It's not a housing shortage. It's a price gouging shortage that leaves a lot of housing empty so that people can get a very high short-term rental rate instead of having people living in these houses.
Right. And there's a lot of waste going on. I know one realtor that owns a one-bedroom condo in Lahaina, and she's in the FEMA program, and FEMA pays her about $4,000 a month. And they haven't housed a person in there because they said they haven't found someone that's qualified. But what's going on is just there's a lot of red tape with FEMA and with the SBA loan programs here after the fire. And so even after a year, no solutions have been put forward for a lot of people. That's too long to wait in terms of being able to stay here and hang in here. So many of them have left, and many of them are hoping to return, but it's much cheaper for them to go live in Las Vegas or somewhere else in the mainland where they may be able to get work.
Yeah.
Because that's the other problem is the work has disappeared. There's so many shows that disappeared from the hotels. So I work for Encore AV and AVS here, and they've only placed me in one or two shows in the past year because so many of the shows have just disappeared. They've just been pulled from the program because of the fires.
Now, I've heard a lot of stories about the fires, everything from being started by lasers from space to being a land grab. Are there any particular of these stories that you find might be more true than others?
Or that are commonly held beliefs around here? Like, what do you think the locals feel has happened?
Well, I think that's a really hard conversation to get into in public. So I don't really know if I would include the content of some of those, what they would call conspiracy theories around the fires. The party line is that it was the Hawaiian Electric Company lack of turning off electricity when there were down power lines in the area. And they're saying that the high winds and the power line situation were what caused the fires. That's the party line. And the party line is that there were less than 100 deaths too. There's lots of stories here on the ground that will be different than what that is, but I'm reluctant to include anything here because it would just get your show blocked.
Yeah, thanks, sweetie. Appreciate it.
We do
We'll have those conversations privately.
Yeah. It's
Well,
a private
I put
conversation.
a link in the chat to a recent John Oliver show, which he totally covers all of what Ed's talking about, and he does a really great job doing it.
Cool.
So
All right, we'll put that in the links. Thanks.
They're 2 weeks old. Yeah.
Meanwhile, we have a new recruit here, I hope, who's just about ready to say hello. Hi, Jerry.
Is that working?
Yes. Perfect. Yes.
Yay!
Technology
wins, finally.
Jerry Isdale is now on.
Give us a little intro, you guys. Help our audience know what we know about Jerry.
You know Jerry, you guys.
I could have Arnold Schwarzenegger read his resume.
No, don't do that.
Resume. Oh, okay. All right. Would you like to be a little incognito, Jerry? Jerry has a lot of claims to fame, but he is a local Maui resident here.
I remember Makers Fair. You were a big part of Maui Makers Fair.
Yeah. And
Doc.
as everybody, all of our friends here joining the show has a tech and media background and tends to bring tech to creative and educational circumstances so that people can benefit from them. Would you say that's a nice opener for you there, Jerry?
Certainly is. And I'll note that I've known Greg since somewhere in the mid 80s when we were both doing early animation systems in Los Angeles, and then got into VR at the same time in the early and mid 90s.
Right.
Yeah, Jerry was working with Hughes Research Labs, and I was at Rockwell International Space Station Division. We're both sort of visionaries inside of these companies, trying to help, drag them into the future.
Right. The first wave of avatar VR creators and survivors through many additional waves to the present moment.
Well, I mean, today they're calling it spatial computing. I mean, but that's what we were doing.
By many different names now. It was really cool to see Greg bringing over a variety of different tech, share his AI stuff, the T5 tabletop VR, and some of the headset stuff, which I also have, and talk to him and some of the folks about the techie projects that we have going on here. Maui has a very active tech community and pretty diverse too, all sorts of high tech from the agriculture to space systems, and even some crossovers where they've been using space observation for the agriculture.
Yeah, I've noticed
and
there's
tying AI in with that.
Yeah, right. Why not? Yeah. Oh, I noticed that if you go up to the top of the volcano here, Haleakala, there are a number of look like very high tech research stations up there or telescopes. Can you tell us what's up there?
There are 10 or 11 of them, I think. Small university research ones, semi-public access ones, and then the two big ones, there's the Solar Observatory, which is new, massive, and doing amazing work. And then there's the Air Force's satellite tracking systems. And that is the reason we also have down there in Kihei, the Supercomputing Center, which after it got established to support the image processing and all that from the telescopes, it has fostered a lot of spin-off tech in the area. Some of it military defense or space-related small companies developing satellites and satellite payloads sort of things, various other applications, and people who just got jobs over there through that and then decided that, gee, we could live here and work remotely or work on projects here. It's been a real neat little community that has sprung up around all of that. We have a lot of escapees from the mainland, especially recently with both the 0.1 percenters and others.
Oh, like the guy who bought Lanai.
And all the development that's happening down there in Wailea. Thank you, Amazon. It is interesting to see Amazon planes actually landing at the Kahului airport these days. We have so much fun stuff going on here, and I'm really pleased that we have both the tech and the art tech crossover industries going big time here.
Do you have any favorite art tech projects yourself where you're bringing in art with science?
Well, we've had a whole bunch of them here in the past. My current one, I have two projects that I've been spinning in the background. One is using different AI and image generation techniques with video cameras to do live performance art, and I've been talking with some of the dance companies in the area about using it as backgrounds for their live dance performances. We'll see how that goes.
I remember dancers were using motion capture for a while. Is it related to that sort of thinking?
It's related to that. You can do motion capture now with a cell phone that gives you body skeletons for a half dozen people. And you can feed that into image generation tools. You can also just feed the straight up images from a webcam into the image tools, which may include stream diffusion and other AI generators, which use those as the seed images and then creates video going forward. It can be really interesting patterns and backgrounds and dance performances.
I mean, could you put like different clothing on actors in real time? change costumes, that sort of thing?
At a high end, yes, because that takes a lot. And that would be things projected on the screen. But you could also have trails and them puppeting non-human characters, the visual effects of Stable Diffusion and all the other AI generator tools. They can be driven by the motions of the actors on stage or dancers on stage, projected behind them.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
There are a lot of people doing this sort of thing worldwide, and just like, okay, we have the capability of doing it. Let's see if we can get it going here on Maui. There's a group, the Adaptations Dance Theater had their annual performance, their Bring It Home, where they bring back people from Maui who have gone elsewhere to be New York City dancers. They come back to the island and perform together as a troupe for a couple performances. I'm friends with a number of the folks there, and we were talking about some of the ideas. We'll see if it goes anywhere.
It's the Maui diaspora.
Yes, we send them off for a few years to go and learn and do, and then they come back home later.
Get it fresh.
People, yeah, bring back some new ideas and new things and new ways of doing stuff. All the experiences from off island and merge them back into the cultures here. It's an interesting phenomenon here where the kids go away because there aren't really all that many jobs for the youth here, unless you want to get a job at a hotel or in the service tourist industry. Businesses there are still struggling to find people. And it's not just finding people, it's finding people who will actually show up and do a good job. I was talking with a CEO or general manager of one of the large restaurants, and she was complaining about, gosh, I'm trying to find and keep qualified people here is so difficult, especially because then they have to find a place to live. And that's been, as you've heard, an interesting experience here.
Yeah.
We're hoping that the housing gets better here. There's a lot of push to develop housing in the wake of the fires and before, because we had a serious housing crisis here beforehand.
What about tiny homes or 3D printing homes?
It's one of the things, it's several of the things that they're thinking about. The 3D printed homes, it's possible. There have been people who've talked about doing it on the island. There's a guy out here now doing cob homes, which is really cool. But that's handcrafting. And the tiny homes, there's been a lot of them that have popped up on the island in the last year. And the county has been changing their attitude about them as they've had to. Unfortunately, some of the larger ones, they got their stuff. There was one big one down central Maui where a European company sent over dozens of their small buildings, pop-up homes, and they set them up on a field over there. They neglected to plan for water, power, septic, internet, whatever. And they couldn't actually populate the place for several months until just recently. Infrastructure is a big problem anywhere, and especially here. You look what happens to the power lines over there on the west side or over here.
What about decentralized power with solar panels? Is that become a thing here yet?
Oh, it's very common, and alternative generation systems of all sorts. People experiment with it. It's a really big thing to have your off-grid setups. It gets expensive, and there are the associated issues. Like, it's been around here for 10, 20 years, and many of those early systems are reaching end of life, especially the batteries, and the panels are getting old. What do you do with the old ones?
Yeah, that is a big issue. Yeah.
It's a big issue worldwide now. It's like, okay, yeah, we got to recycle these things somehow. Don't know.
They all have to be shipped to Asia, somewhere else, to be disassembled in a reasonable ecological way. The efficiency of these panels, they're not even worth being in service anymore.
Yeah.
There's no place to put them on the island. They're full of toxic chemicals. They don't belong in a landfill. And also, the Don Ho's dream of housing is a tiny bubble home. Cross between Don Ho and Frank Lloyd Wright.
And the Octopus's Garden.
Tiny bubble home.
This might seem like a dumb question. This came in from the audience. Can't you throw the old panels in the volcano?
We don't have an active volcano. And I'm not sure shipping them over to the Big Island would work either.
And be expensive.
So
one of the businesses One of the
We should
businesses
come up
over
with
at
a
the
program to start up the volcano.
Oh, yeah.
one of the businesses over at the Maui Research and Technology Center was taking glass and melting it down and putting it to the asphalt in the roads. Maybe that could be a potential solution for solar cells.
Yeah. One of our favorite shows in the past was called Solar Frickin' Highways, where you you use all of the roadways to generate solar power on the side.
Why not?
Yeah.
Because every
area.
20 years or every 5 years or less, you'd have to replace panels. And that would be, well, it would be full-time work for the street crews, which I don't know. We got enough of that going around here anyways.
A great way to replace the potholes with new panels.
Yeah, until the trucks hit them again. Roadbeds here are really not well made in many cases because they were built as they were 40 years ago. It shows when you drive over them a bunch. There are some really interesting recycling projects going on. Maui Malama Nui, formerly known as Community Workday, a decade ago, is a recycling center down in Punene. They have a system from precious plastics, which is a prototype for recycling some plastic into bricks and other molded items, kind of like 3D printing, but instead of printing it, you're making a mold, just squishing all the plastic into a mold. It works pretty well, or it worked at one point. Then they have another one where, in connection with the Surfrider folks, they brought in a glass crushing system where they can take recycled glass and crush it up into small pebbles or sand and tumble that and make it reusable in a lot of different places.
Wow, cool.
Why is it still so hard to get over to Hana, though? For years, it's always been, seems like impossible to have a good road to the other side of the island.
There was a landslide this week on the way to Hana, and that was just brought in by the storm.
Oh, yeah.
A couple massive trees down across the road. Yeah.
Right. And whenever we have hurricanes, you'll see all these waterfalls erupt on the sides of the hills, and all that brings in rock. And there's lots of tree limbs and things that fall down. That's why I like having a four-wheel drive here on the island.
Yeah. I've
Also,
heard
the bandits along the way, they kind of slowed down the tourism.
One of the reasons that the highways are so disrepaired there is because some of the locals like it that way.
Ah, yes. It reminds me of Bolinas in California, then, where the locals take down the sign off the freeway because they don't want tourists.
That happens here, too. On the way out to Haleakua, the Door of Faith sign's always removed from the locals because they want to discourage people finding their road.
Stranded rental car is like a cause for celebration.
Okay, another thing is if you're short on youth here, what about retired techies? And there must be a lot of them moving here after retiring from various tech jobs in the States. Do you have a growing community of elders that you get to play with?
Retirees, elders, people who have sold their company or are working remote for large corporations. Yeah, we've got the smorgasbord of those. We have a group that you may have mentioned, I missed part of the show, the Maui Techies, which meets there at Maui Brew regularly once a month, and then at other various times. And it's just an ad hoc group of show up and drink beer and talk story with other techies and people who appreciate them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of semi-retired people as well as youth and visitors that show up. Being that the brew pub is right across the street from, or right there in the research park and across the street from the supercommuting center, well, we do get those folks quite a bit, which is great. There are a lot of the tech folks are involved in various projects around the island. Like me, we retire here and then get sucked into doing things like the Maui Makers, which is still operational down in the central base yard, although I no longer have anything to do with them.
That's great.
Do you know anybody that's playing with remote operated submarines vehicles off the coast here or anything like that?
Yes, but mostly through the university or other research corps. I don't know anybody other than myself that has personal remote operated ones. I have an old Trident from one of the Kickstarters a decade ago.
I want to mention that Whale Trust has one that they $250,000 surfboard. And basically what it does is it follows the whales when they come down here. The whales come down from the Bering Strait area in the wintertime. And it was believed when I was a whale naturalist back 20, 30 years ago that whales would sing here and it would chorus and it would get over to Mexico or get over to Japan. But this surfboard that Whale Trust has put out there has followed and found that whales are moving laterally from Hawaii to Mexico and to Japan. And so that's a remotely operated, and data is gathered from that because it's traveling all over the Pacific.
Yeah, that's true. You have a lot of whales here. It seems like there might be some interest in the intersection of whales with interspecies communication using AI. It seems like AI would be very useful for interspecies contact.
Well, they're starting to listen to whale song with AI and dolphin, things like that. But anyway, the opportunity here is to tune in to the Whale Tales conference that Whale Trust puts out in February out in Kaanapali. It's a wonderful 3-day conference where it only costs $60 to attend. You hear all these research scientists talking about whale research around the world and the technology that they're using, including drones. What's nice is they're starting to use drones to come in over the whales that get wrapped with nets, and they'll drop a camera on a suction cup onto the whale so that someone holding a long pole, like a 30-foot pole with a knife on it, can cut the net off of the whale without harming the whale's skin. So that's how they're applying technology with whale research and with saving the whales. And there's Ed Lyman, who works for National Oceanic, NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. He has probably saved over 200 whales from net entanglements here on Maui.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that knife that they use for disentangling the whales from cutting was developed by a friend of ours here on Maui. It was part of the whale rescue operations. And
so this is whale robots. These are robots helping whales by snipping the nets that they've been entangled in, right? And drones.
Well, no, they're not using the drones to do that yet. They're just using that for the visualization. There's still a human that's using that, that knife on the end of a long staff.
Just checking. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're trying not to approach the whales with the drones of any sort, because then that would disturb them, because they can sense them, know that they're there approaching them, and that makes a stressed out whale more stressed out. And it's bad enough that they're chasing them in the skiffs. Hopefully that's not memories of 200-300 years ago.
Yeah, right.
I'm thinking that the whale vocalizations might be better understood with the AI tech.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Are you guys working on some whale songs to be able to let them know that you're here to help?
Bits of work going on in those areas, listening to the whales and trying to decipher what they're saying. Interesting, as you said, interspecies communication. It's early days for it, though. A little bit late from Dr. Lilly's work, but it continues.
And the whales are telling the alien probe not to destroy the planet.
Oh, good. Let's hope the aliens are listening.
And they're all heading to Mexico because the krill market dropped out there. So
listen, you guys, we're just down to the last couple minutes. I have to make one quick announcement. Our friend Rachel Williams is doing an album release party down in Monterey at the Pacific Grove in Monterey, and it's called Pop and Hiss. Her album release is going to be at 7 p.m. on September 13th. Her new album is called Elysium, Bringing Heaven to Earth Through Music.
People want to know more about what's going on Maui, especially with Maui Tech Elements. Jerry, is there a website that you'd recommend?
The best thing would be to look for Maui Techies on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Meetup.
Maui Tech.
And Tiny Gnomes.
Yeah. Maui Techies is such a great networking opportunity. I really appreciate the way Jerry helps connect people. He does a lot of networking and introductions, like with Maui Economic Development.
So much, everybody. 5 seconds
All right.
to go.
Thank you, guys.
Have
Really
a great
appreciate it.
future now.
Yeah. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye bye, my darling. Bye bye.
And now the new release from Holy See called Even Edges by Rachel Williams in Monterey.